Hi everybody, welcome to Parapsychology Foundation's Holiday Book Expo. I'm filming this in my apartment about a week before Christmas 2018, and I'm very excited because we've just put in a order, which we do throughout the year, for book buy to add to the shelves of the Eileen Garrett Library. So I thought because of the holidays it might be good to share with you the riches that I have in the box, and also to illustrate plainly the diversity of the things that we study in parapsychology. So I am filming in my apartment, so if you see some furry friends, one cat is named JP Morgan and the other is Comey, and they may be in and out of the frame, so you'll forgive me. This isn't exactly the MGM lion. So let's get started and see what we have in the box. Okay, well, the first one I'm putting my hands on is Engaging the Anomalous, Collected Essays on Anthropology, the Paranormal, Mediumship, and Extraordinary Experience by Jack Hunter, with a foreword by George P. Hansen. That's fortuitous because Jack is a past grantee. I think he was the Eileen Garrett Scholarship winner in 2010. And he's just recently come on board as one of our Parapsychology Foundation Research Fellows. So let me read from the back of the book, saying that Engaging the Anomalous is a collection of essays written by Jack Hunter between 2010 to 2017. Together, the essays push toward the development of a non-reductive, participatory, and experiential anthropology of the paranormal. Over the course of the book, Hunter surveys trends in anthropology's engagement with the paranormal, the anthropology and neuroscience of spirit possession, the history of spiritualism and the phenomena of physical mediumship, and the overlaps between mediumistic practices and other mind-body phenomena. Hunter also poses serious questions about consciousness, experience, spirits, mediumship, psi, the nature of reality, and how best to investigate and understand them. In addition, the book features a selection of illuminating interviews with the author, as well as an original foreword by trickster theorist George P. Hansen. Engaging the Anomalous is a bold contribution to anomalistic, not animalistic, I have cats on the brain, anomalistic literature. So it's a must read for anyone interested in the study of anomalous, extraordinary, and paranormal experiences. So here we have Jack Hunter's latest. Now, what do we have here? Oh, now we have problems. It's in Italian. It's Ernesto Di Martino e la Metapsichica by, Giulio Caratelli. As I said, it is in Italian, and luckily they sent me a cheat sheet. So apparently the author has sent me a free book, a freebie for a nonprofit that always needs money. This is wonderful. The title, Ernesto Di Martino e la Metapsichica. Apparently, Martino was a past grantee of Parapsychology Foundation in 1957, and he was doing field researches that we were very happy to support. So apparently he, reading from this explanation, carried out with special and qualified interdisciplinary research group based fundamentally on some numerous practices of healing, on the traditional beliefs that are within the culture, an investigation of uncommon physical effects such as poltergeists and also telepathic dreams, episodes of clairvoyance, and so on. Apparently, Caratelli presented a paper at the PA, the Parapsychological Association's 39th International Convention back in 2015, an abstract of which Ernesto Di Martino's contributions to parapsychology was in the Journal of Parapsychology, volume 79, number 2, fall of 2015. So I think it's really cool that we supported something back in 57 that has been unearthed, and it dovetails very nicely, I think, with Jack Hunter's para-anthropology movement and his journal, which I believe is just coming back into print online. So for those who can speak Italian and enjoy it, read it and let me know. Now what do we have? have here? Oh my goodness, this is a past grantee of Parapsychology Foundation and a very good friend, James McLennan. Dr. James McLennan has written The Entity Letters, a sociologist on the trail of a supernatural mystery. So, it says a host of phenomena that boggle the mind. Well, most of parapsychology's phenomena tends to boggle the mind, but apparently The Entity Letters describes a years-long sociological investigation of a sitter group that witnessed table movements, table levitations, poltergeist phenomena, earthquake effects, and other startling physical events. The group was known as the Society for Research on Rapport and Telekinesis, known as SORAT, and it was founded in 1961 by John Neihardt, the famous poet and author of the best-selling book Black Elk Speaks. SORAT hoped to replicate spirituals phenomena to increase scientific understanding of psychokinesis, which is mind over matter. After meeting weekly for a few months, the group heard rapping sounds, seemingly from black elk and other spirits. The phenomena grew to include ostensibly spirit-written messages found within a sealed container called a mini lab, specially designed to preclude the possibility of fraud. I think we also funded some of that research as well. Anyway, eventually the spirits began communicating by mail with dozens of SORAT members, describing life after death, the nature of time, and spiritual development. The Entity Letters explores the idea that these kinds of experiences shaped ancient religions. Dr. McLennan is a sociology professor and licensed clinical social worker. He's written 3 books, and they're excellent, by the way, and they're all at the library, and you really should look into them. One is Deviant Science, The Case of Parapsychology. Another is Wondrous Events, Foundations of Religious Belief. And the third is Wondrous Healing, Shamanism, Human Evolution, and the Origin of Religion. So this I can't personally wait to dip into. Oh, that's a pretty cover. We have Mind Beyond Brain, Buddhism, Science, and the Paranormal by David E. Presti, P-R-E-S-T-I. And apparently, it says, among the most profound questions we confront are the nature of what and who we are as conscious beings, and how the human mind relates to the rest of what we consider to be reality. For millennia, philosophers, scientists, and religious thinkers have attempted answers, perhaps none more meaningful today than those offered by neuroscience and by Buddhism. The encounter between these 2 worldviews has spurred ongoing conversations about what science and Buddhism might teach each other about mind and reality. In Mind Beyond Brain, neuroscientist David E. Presti, with the assistance of other distinguished researchers, explores how evidence for anomalous phenomena, such as near-death experiences, apparent memories of past lives, apparitions, experiences associated with death, and other so-called psi or paranormal phenomena, including telepathy, clairvoyance, and precognition, can influence the Buddhism science conversation. Mind Beyond Brain describes the extensive but frequently unacknowledged history of scientific investigation into these phenomena, demonstrating its relevance to questions about consciousness and reality. The new perspectives opened up, if we are willing to take evidence of such off-limit topics seriously, offer significant challenges to dominant explanatory paradigms, and raise the prospect that we may be poised for truly revolutionary developments in the scientific investigation of mind. Mind Beyond Brain represents the next level in the science and Buddhism dialogue. Oh, no wonder the foundation doesn't have any money. These are a lot of books. Let's see. The Nature of Consciousness, Essays on the Unity of Mind and Matter by Rupert Spira, S-P-I-R-A. Apparently in this book, it is suggested that consciousness is the fundamental underlying reality of the apparent duality of mind and matter, and that the overlooking, forgetting, or ignoring of this reality is the root cause of both the existential unhappiness that pervades and motivates most people's lives and the wider conflicts that exist between communities and nations. Conversely, it is suggested that the recognition of the fundamental reality of consciousness is the prerequisite and a necessary and sufficient condition for an individual's quest for lasting happiness, and at the same time the foundation of world peace. Well, certainly we need help with world peace. Apparently, it goes on to say our world culture is founded on the belief that consciousness is derived from matter, giving rise to the materialistic assumption that informs almost every aspect of our lives and is the root cause of the suffering within individuals, the conflicts between communities and nations, and the degradation of our environment. The nature of consciousness exposes the fallacy of this belief and suggests that the recognition of the presence, the primacy, and the nature of consciousness is the prerequisite for any new paradigm that is to address these issues at their core. Well, this is an interesting cover. Oh, science fiction. You catch it? PSI, Science Fiction, the Paranormal in Science Fiction Literature by Damien Broderick. Science fiction has often been considered the literature of futuristic technology, fantastic warfare among the stars, or ruinous apocalypses on Earth. The last century, however, saw, through John W. Campbell, the introduction of science, get it? Science fiction, PSI, science fiction, which explores such themes of mental powers as telepathy, recognition of the future, teleportation, etc., and symbolic machines that react to such forces. The author surveys this long-ignored literary shift through a series of influential novels and short stories published between the 30s and the present. This discussion is framed by the sudden surge of interest in parapsychology and its absorption not only into the sci-fi genre, but also into the real world through military experiments such as the Stargate program. Damien Broderick is an Australian writer, editor, and critical theorist who apparently now lives in San Antonio, Texas. Interesting. Arguing Science, science spelled the correct way, a dialogue on the future of science and spirit by Rupert Sheldrake and Michael Shermer. Well, this should be a point-counterpoint. Two controversial authors debate the nature and methods of science, its dogmas, and its future. Rupert Sheldrake argues that science needs to free itself from materialist dogma, while Michael Shermer contends that science, properly conceived, is a materialistic enterprise, and that for science to look beyond materialist explanations is to betray itself and engage in superstition. Issues discussed include materialism and its role in science, whether belief in God is compatible with a scientific perspective, and parapsychology. Michael Shermer is a well-known science writer, historian of science, founder of the Skeptic Society, and editor-in-chief of its magazine Skeptic, which is largely devoted to investigating pseudoscientific and supernatural claims. He's a visiting associate at the California Institute of Technology and hosts Caltech's Skeptics lecture series. He's authored numerous books as well: Skeptic, Why People Believe Weird Things, and Secrets of Mental Math. Rupert Sheldrake is a biologist, perhaps best known for his hypothesis of morphic fields and morphic resonance, which posits a living, developing universe with its own inherent memory. He's the author of more than 80 scientific papers and 10 books, including The Physics of Angels, Dogs That Know When Their Owners Are Coming Home, and most recently, Science Set Free, which challenges scientific dogma. That should be a really interesting counterpoint discussion. Boy, beginning to dig deep here. Now, what's this? Oh, a past grantee of the foundation as well. Sergio A. Rueda, with a foreword by the very esteemed Dr. Stanley Krippner. This book is entitled Diabolical Possession and the Case Behind the Exorcist, an overview of scientific research with interviews with witnesses and experts. Apparently, this is re-examining the purported 1949 exorcism of a 13-year-old boy in Mount Rainier, Maryland, the most famous and widely documented case in history. I don't know if that's just their opinion, but anyway, the author explores the subject of demonic possession in the light of science. Eyewitness accounts, unpublished photos, and never before published documents from the archives of the Rhine Research Foundation provide fresh perspective on the events that inspired the novel and later the film The Exorcist. Sergio A. Rueda, PhD, is the director of the Institute of Medicine and Advanced Behavioral Technologies at Hospital Poliplaza Medica in Mexico. He's also a trained biblical scholar with specializations in Hebrew and Greek languages, archaeology, and theology. That should be a good read. Oh, now the foundation came to this book through the auspices of one of our research fellows, Dr. Jim Matlock. There are very few copies available, and I was very lucky, thanks to him, to get my hands on this for the library. It's entitled Past Forward, 1878 and Counting, a Reincarnation Memoir. The author is, and excuse my pronunciation, the author is Amrita Upalamba, with a foreword by Dr. Newton Kondovetti. And basically, this is the story of a reincarnation, of a life and an afterlife, of a rendezvous with the soul, where truth is stranger than fiction, apparently, and where the two lives come together in a fascinating tale of love, loss, and longing. It is the saga of how the remnants of memories from another life, that of the hugely successful entrepreneur, builder, and philanthropist Ray Benhardur Lala Sunda Das Chopra, are carried over to his next life when he is reborn as Sardar Balbir Singh Apal. He clearly recalls his previous life and death. He remembers his family from his past life with such accuracy and in such detail that not only are they traced, but they manage to connect with him in this life and renew their family bonds. The two families from across borders and generations finally come together in a surrealist meeting where the two lives of one man find validation, confirmation, and acceptance. This is also the story of a daughter's heroic struggle, as only a daughter's can be, of tracing the roots of her father's birth to another life and world. This is her labor of love and her tribute to her 95-year-old father by sharing this incredible story so close to his heart. She has painstakingly and lovingly put together the riveting saga of her father's two lives. This is not only an enormous personal contribution, but also a truly significant academic contribution to understanding this rare phenomena of reincarnation. It's a beautiful book, may I say. I mean, beautifully done with all sorts of inserts. It's really magnificent. So I don't personally know too much about reincarnation, although I have been, a student, thanks to Jim Matlock. So I think definitely this is worth delving into in depth. Well, what is it like to be dead? Near-Death Experiences, Christianity and the Occult by Jens, and again my pronunciation, I'm sorry, Jens Schlitter. Apparently, studies of near-death experiences show that such experiences not only provide a new certainty of post-mortem survival, but often function as a call for fundamental change in the present. Reported after effects encompass changes in attitudes, beliefs, and life orientation. It is said that experiencers have lost their fear of death, found their purpose in life, or become more spiritual. The experience, often declared to be indescribable, inexplicable, or ineffable, is held by many to be the most important of their lives, and moreover, the best proof available for matters transcendent. In What Is Like to Be Dead, Jens Schlitter argues that to understand recent testimonies of near-death experiences, we need to be aware of the history of innumerable reports of earlier near-death experiences that were communicated and handed down in scores of newspapers, journals, and books. Collections of such testimonies have been published for more than 150 years, accompanied by attempts to classify and interpret them. Schlieder analyzes the religious relevance of near-death experiences for the experiencers themselves, but also for the growing audience attracted by these testimonies. Near-death experiences bear ontological, epistemic, I guess. Well, maybe I should take a drink at this point, and too bad it's only water, and maybe if I had a little bit of Christmas cheer, I'd be able to pronounce these words better. Thanks, Rudolph. So, to regroup, near-death experiences bear ontological, epistemic, intersubjective, and moral significance, ranging from reassurance that religious experience is still possible to claims that they initiate a new spiritual orientation in life, or offer evidence for the transcultural validity of afterlife beliefs. This study is the first to document and analyze 4 centuries of near-death testimonies before the codification of the genre in the 1970s, offering the first full account of the modern genealogy of near-death experience. Jens Schlieder apparently is a PhD professor, University of Bonn. Well, he's got his PhD from the University of Bonn in Germany. He's a professor of the systemic study of religion and co-director of the Institute for the Science of Religion, University of Bern, Switzerland. His publications comprise contributions on methodological and theoretical questions of the study of religion, on Buddhist bioethics, and comparative philosophy. So here we have What Is It Like to Be Dead? Almost to the bottom. Let's see. What's this one? Altered States of Consciousness, Experiences Out of Time and Self by Mark Whitman, translated by Philippa Hurd. Let's see. During extraordinary moments of consciousness, shock, meditative states, and sudden mystical revelations, out-of-body experiences, or drug intoxication, our senses of time and self are altered, and we may even feel time and self dissolving. These experiences have long been ignored by mainstream science or considered crazy fantasies. Recent research, however, has located the neural underpinnings of these altered states of mind. In this book, neuropsychologist Mark Whitman shows how experiences that disturb or widen our everyday understanding of the self can help solve the mystery of consciousness. Whitman explains that the relationship between consciousness of time and consciousness of self is close. In extreme circumstances, the experiences of space and self intensify and weaken together. He considers the emergence of the self in waking life and dreams, how our sense of time is distorted by extreme situations ranging from terror to mystical enlightenment, the experience of the moment, and the loss of time and self in such disorders as depression, schizophrenia, and epilepsy. Dostoevsky reported godly bliss during epileptic seizures. Neurologists are now investigating the phenomenon of the epileptic aura. Whitman describes new studies of psychedelics that show how the brain builds consciousness of self and time, and discusses pilot programs that use hallucinogens to treat severe depression, anxiety, and addiction. If we want to understand our consciousness, our subjectivity, Whitman argues, we must not be afraid to break new ground. Studying altered states of consciousness leads us directly to the heart of the matter, time and self, the foundations of consciousness. So, here we have Altered States of Consciousness by Whitman. Oh my goodness, time loops. Precognition, retrocausation, and the unconscious by Eric Wargo. Now, I must admit myself, when I've been to Parapsychology Foundation conferences and other conferences, my eyes tend to glaze. This is just my personal idiosyncrasies about understanding time things such as precognition, retrocausation, and the unconscious. So I'm hoping that this is going to help me focus. Apparently it's saying time is not what you think it is, neither are you. Welcome to a world where participants in psychology experiments respond to pictures they haven't seen yet, where physicists influence the past behavior of a light beam by measuring its photons now, and where dreamers and writers literally remember their future. This landmark study explores the principles that allow the future to affect the present and the present to affect the past without causing paradox. It also deconstructs the powerful taboos that for centuries have kept mainstream science from taking phenomena like retrocausation and precognition seriously. We are four-dimensional creatures, and sometimes we are even caught in time loops, self-fulfilling prophecies where effects become their own causes. This sounds interesting. Eric Wargo apparently has a PhD in anthropology from Emory University and works as a science writer and editor in Washington, D.C. In his spare time, he writes about science fiction, consciousness, and the paranormal at his popular blog entitled The Night Shirt. Time Loops is his first book. Well, and at the bottom of the barrel, last but really not least, let's see what we have here. Oh, this is a really good one. This is The Premonition Code by Teresa Chung and Dr. Julia Mossbridge, with a preface by another friend of the foundation, Lloyd Auerbach, and of course, the esteemed scientist, Dr. Dean Radin, who serves as our PF International affiliate representing the United States. So the Premonition Code, the science of precognition, how sensing the future can change your life. Apparently, the Premonition Code describes an unprecedented shift in scientific understanding. At its core lie peculiar and unexpected aspects of time itself, of causal relationships and modes of knowing that defy conventional explanation. It also provides a fascinating and practical toolbox to aid people in personally exploring these mind-bending concepts and applying them positively in their own lives. So says Eben Alexander, the neurosurgeon and author of Living in a Mindful Universe and the Proof of Heaven. The book goes on to say, have you ever had a feeling something was going to happen? And it did. Well, in my family, as the granddaughter of Eileen Garrett, I would recognize such a happening. Have you ever had a dream and then seen it play out in your waking life? Most people dismiss these premonitions as coincidences, but scientific evidence suggests that some of these experiences are far from coincidental. What if we could use information from the future to guide our choices and to drive positive change in our lives and in the world? Now you can learn about the science behind precognition, read real-life case studies, and cultivate your precognitive abilities to participate in the largest scientific experiment of its kind on precognition. Prepare to have all of your preconceptions challenged. So Teresa Chung has a master's in theology and English from King's College, Cambridge University, and has dedicated her life to studying and writing books on the unexplained. And Dr. Julia Mossbridge is a fellow at the Institute of Noetic Sciences and a visiting scholar in the psychology department at Northwestern University, among other positions. She researches time, unconditional love, and precognition. So, there you go, guys. That's quite a diverse bunch of books that we've collected. And it just goes to show, as I said in my introduction, that parapsychology is so much more than a ghost clanking chains, as in the voice of a Ghost of Christmas Past, and more than ESP and telepathy. So I would invite you to join the efforts of Parapsychology Foundation. You know, we have a always enlarging Parapsychology Foundation YouTube channel. We have various websites, 5 of them. The main one being www.parapsychology.org. We maintain a grant and scholarship program. I write a monthly blog. I'm trying to think of what, of course, the grants, we do a lecture series. So all this unfortunately takes money. And whereas I want you to spend your money and buy these fascinating books, it wouldn't hurt to spread a little Christmas cheer and send a fully tax deductible donation to Parapsychology Foundation so that we can continue our work. This is going on to our, I think it's our 60, if I'm not mistaken, it might be our 66th year of operation. So anything that you could do to help continue the life of the organization would be really very much appreciated. But in the meantime, enjoy your studies in parapsychology, and we'll meet again next time.